just a side note that I'm curious what your kind of TV history theory about this is. One thing you use a ton in The Office, you just alluded to, and I think you do in Parks and Rec, but you don't do in The Good Place, is that mockumentary reaction shot of the character just looking at the camera being like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Which is just bizarrely entertaining. Like, you can take a kind of funny line and turn it into a really funny line.
Yep.
Just seeing someone. Where do you think that came from? Is it in
The mockumentary shot in general?
that shot, that reaction shot? Is that in Spinal Tap?
Spinal Tap was our touchstone for a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think the British guys perfected it.
Yeah.
What's fascinating about it, though, is that the reason that it works really well throughout 200 episodes of a show, anything you do 200 times is going to get boring, or has the risk of getting boring, right? But the reason that I think it worked really well in The Office is that we were really specific about the different kinds of ways that people looked at the camera. And this is getting really granular, and I apologize.
I love this stuff.
But it wasn't, and a lot of the credit could go to the actors too, but they didn't all just look at the camera and roll their eyes. Jim looked at the camera like it was his friend, right? It was like, finally, there's a person here who sees what I have been living for the last however many years. Like, you're my friend and you see this too, right? Dwight would look at the camera like, I am awesome and you know I'm awesome and I want to make sure you know I'm awesome. Michael would look at the camera very frequently like, oh no, right? Because he would say something stupid or racist or whatever and would go, oh right, there's a camera here. And then he would have to spin for the camera. So they all had these different relationships. And I was gone, but in the episode where Jim and Pam are in a volleyball match at the company picnic or whatever, and they find out that Pam is pregnant, there's a moment where Jim looks at the camera and his eyes are welling up because he's just gotten the news that she's pregnant. And I talked to Ken Kwapis, I believe, who directed the pilot, directed that episode, and he said, John Krasinski had said, like, let's talk through this moment with me. And the thing that Ken said was, this person is your friend. You spent 7 years with this person. Whoever that camera person is that we've never seen is you like, look at him like you're looking at your best friend. In the moment you find out that the love of your life is pregnant with your child, like, that's all you have to do. And if you watch that moment, that's how John looks at the camera. It's like, I'm getting to share this thing with my friends. So that little device, which is now very common, at the time was brand new for American TV at least. It adds this whole layer of specificity, character, and because it's the camera, it's also the audience. Like, the audience feels what the camera people would feel. So it worked so well for The Office, and it worked really well in places for Parks and Rec. We did it a lot less on Parks and Rec because partly because once we figured out the difference between Leslie Knope and Michael Scott, we realized, like, oh, Leslie is an incredibly honest and sincere person. She wears her heart on her sleeve. There's no reason for her. We imagined it early on as like, oh, she's going to be doing the same thing Michael Scott does, which is like saying something and then catching herself and spinning like a politician. But we eventually realized, like, she doesn't spin anything. She just says what she feels all the time. She's a very, very sincere person. And so Amy kind of naturally stopped looking at the camera. If you look at those later seasons, there's very few glances to the camera from her. So it's like this living, breathing aspect of the show that changes and evolves over time as the characters do. It's really cool.
Thank you for diving into that. I mean, all these little kind of formal conventions that people, I think, experience, and it really shapes your show, but I think in some cases you're not even aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
Really,
I think
building blocks are
and
really
I think it's good that they're not aware. I don't think it should be. I think it should be functioning on a subconscious level. Like, I don't think if it's too showy and too overused or whatever, it's not going to work. It has to be a sort of subtle aspect of the show for it to work.